Howdy guys, I want to talk to you all today on this video about logging. Alright, mostly about cutting. Okay? Those of you who don't know me that's new to this or whatnot, I've logged for many years. I've been in the woods for a lot of years. I've done almost every job there is to do in the woods. Almost. And I've enjoyed every job. Every job I've ever done in the woods has been a fun job, rewarding, challenging, and depending on how deep you want to go into the rabbit hole, very mentally stimulating. Okay, my funnest job that I've ever done in the woods was cut timber. And I don't know how many years I've spent cutting timber, but many. Okay? And I wanted to kind of, I don't know how to do this quite right with respect to Nutsey and his accident and everything. Those of you that don't know Nutsey 319, check him out on YouTube. If you don't, I'm sure everybody, the cat's out of the bag, everybody's done did their stuff by now. And I'm kind of following up here. But I just didn't want to get along. I told Lauren that I didn't know how to do the video. So I don't know what I'm doing here. But I thought, you know what? Nutsey was one of the first guys on YouTube that was actually a cutter. I remember when I first started poking around on YouTube, it was in the early days. You know, now there's plenty of good loggers and cutters and all that on there. But when I first started, it didn't seem like there was any good loggers on there. Nobody was really doing it yet. And I remember seeing Nutsey's first few vids that he put up, and I'm like, hey, there's a timber cutter. You know, it's not a guy fumbling around with a chainsaw. This is actually a timber cutter. You know, and it's pretty nice to, hey, buddy, come talk to me. It's nice to see you. Where you been all my life? That sort of thing. And then, of course, then Uncle Buck can come in the scene like a whirlwind. And of course, now, you know, Bobby's back on there now. Or, well, he's come and gone. But he's still, I think, helping on YouTube. So keep looking. Bobby's comes and helps people and does things. But nowadays there's a plenty on here. But I wanted to kind of settle down and talk to you about timber cutting. You know, I've kind of got out of it. My path has went a different direction. Not by choice per se, but I see where I'm needed now, and it's not on the saw. We run a family business, and there's many people employed there, 30-something people employed at our family business, and they need me in other places. And I had to finally reluctantly let go of the reins a little bit on the timber cutting, and Derek's took it over, and Derek's fantastic at it. You know, so that's enough about us. But so I'm coming to you as kind of a has-been. I still would love to cut. I love cutting, and I'd grab a saw any day and go cut anywhere, any day. But I don't feel kosher and acting like a current timber cutter. I've not cut a tree in months. Okay? But now, that being said, getting to Nutsey's accident and trying to kind of give you all information here, you know, cutting is very dangerous. I mean, it's a fun, rewarding, it's it's like a drug. Cutting timber's like a drug, man. It gets you, and you can't let go of it. It just gets into you. And, you know, over the years, I know Nutsey's been hurt a time or two, you know, other than the normal thumping we all go through, you know, but I think he's been laid up twice now. I'm not sure of that, but I know me personally, I've woke up in the middle of the woods before, dirt in my mouth, pop knots over my head, didn't know where I was at. I remember that time, didn't know what happened, still don't know what happened. I've been through, I know what it's like to fly through the air. You know, I learned that from cutting timber. over the guy's head, actually. I watched him. I went over his head and I looked down and he was underneath me. Been ran over by a tree. Been almost... I know what it's like to look up to the sky and the sky goes dark. You know, I've had that happen a couple times when stuff's coming at you. I've stood behind trees multiple times while everything crashed around me. Like, kind of like a Looney Tune hide behind a fence post in a hurricane. If you can kind of picture that, you know. And that's just the things that's happened to me over the years, you know. And here's a few clips of some things that I've caught on camera happening to me on camera while I was cutting. Now, here's a couple clips I found on my computer right quick.
I wouldn't let my saw go.
Ash tree. I freaking match cut it, just slopping through it. Didn't even pay attention. Didn't look up good enough. I guess there was a limb up there screwed up. I shouldn't even cut the daggone thing. Watch me. I get it. I get hit right here. Oh, that hurt like a son of a bug. See that 10-foot long limb there got me stuck in the ground there? Son of a bug. Shouldn't even cut the daggone thing. Should have cut it with the buncher.
Damn it. There's a lot of stuff hitting the ground. Jeez, my knees. It's all over.
But I hope this kind of shows you all. I tell you, cutting timber, it feels like a war when you're out there. And to me, it always did. Of course, to me, I was always determined. I always lived my life like it was some kind of, I don't know, it's nothing. My life's nothing to everybody else, but to me, it was everything. And you're always fighting for the good fight, and well, you go down to the gas station in the morning, get something or whatever, get ready for the day or whatever, and you're getting scowls and stuff. You get people that don't think much of you, especially when you get to cutting in the urban areas. But it's like you get thumped around and beat on and thrashed at and stuff like that all day long. But there never is the respect that you feel like that. I'm not saying that's coming out wrong. I'm not trying to say like, well, just hey, not scowling. To be able to walk up to somebody, tell them what you do, and not have to be worried about what they're going to say. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. A good timber cutter, he's taking care of the environment. He's out there trying to make the forest healthier. And everybody sees it as like, well, you're killing trees. No. You're cycling through trees. It's like gardening. Except the garden's huge. So you're gardening with a chainsaw. How do you get rid of a weed that is 60 foot, 70 foot, 80 foot tall in the east? Sorry, you Westerners, I get it. But if you're, or say it's a 100-something foot tall, mature, bottom ground tree that needs to be gone. If it sits there, it's just going to stagnate. It ain't going to produce food for animals. It's not going to produce. It's not going to help the oxygen none because it's a tree that's dying. It's a dying, aging tree. Trees age like people age. An old tree cannot do that job properly. So you have to make room for younger trees to grow. Everybody talks about killing trees. What about all the young trees that dies every year because they can't bust through the canopy? And you're trying to open the canopy up and let enough sunlight down to where the young ones can take off. To get that job accomplished, you have to make it, because we live in capitalist society. Thank you, capitalism. But to do that, you have to make it profitable because it costs a lot of money to do this work. So we get wood products and stuff off the woods, cabinetry, homes, all these things, furniture, flooring, trailer floors, even structures of other, structures of sorts, even some bridges, some big, buildings and this sort of things. What that does is that creates a system that brings in money to pay for doing the forestry. I think that's what everybody misses, the fact that you're there to protect, you're there to be a steward of the forest. To do that, something has to pay for it. It has to pay the landowner, so the landowner wants to take care of his forest for all of us. Not all of us are landowners. If they're taking care of their trees, their forest, so it's helping the environment for all of us, that landowner will have to make some kind of money to say, hey, you know what the old saying goes, tell me how you will reward me and I will tell you how I will behave. If the landowner's making money off his forest, he is turning his forest so that way it's regenerating healthy, green, healthy growth. So that being said, as a timber cutter, I always felt like, man, I'm misunderstood. That's why I care so much about loggers and timber cutters and stuff like that, because I know what they're there to do, and I know the sacrifices they make to get to do that for all of us, for the good of the world. But the world just sees the news flash from Brazil, the deforestation. That's farming. That's different. That's feeding people. That's a different thing. All right, what we're doing here is forest management. We're managing the woods. We're keeping the woods healthy. You go to an unmanaged forest, I'll tell you what you ain't going to find. Happy critters, because they don't have food. Dead and dying trees, and trees fell over and all this stuff, because the forest gets old, just trees fall over. okay? And you're going to see a tinderbox for fire, you know, and you're going to see a woods that don't do a lot of good for the atmosphere. This guy is a very necessary person in our ecosystem, in our economy. Let me say something about Nutsey real quick. Nutsey is the classiest logger, one of the classiest loggers I've ever known. All right? He behaves himself well. He carries himself well. He cares. He's empathetic. He cares about people. Donates his time to the community way better than I ever did. You know. And he's got him a wonderful. His girlfriend is wonderful. Everybody that's been in Nutsey's life is wonderful. And Lauren, I was talking to Lauren the other day. She goes, "My gosh," she says, "all the people that's come out of the woodwork to help Nutsey." She said, "It just blows my mind." I said, "Let me tell you something. This guy has been helping people for as long as I've known him. I've known him for quite a few years now. And in his mind is always, how can I help? How can I help? How can I?" You know what I mean? So it don't surprise me none that everybody's come to his side like they have. Sometimes this industry eats people. It's ate me and chewed me up a few times. You know, I know I had a hero, and this guy took me under his wing. He would teach me things, but he's not that guy that makes it comfortable. He's that guy that makes it a challenge. Every conversation me and him ever had was high energy, argumentative, and very stimulating. He was very intelligent, been around for a long time, helped me through a lot. He taught me a lot, you know. "Well, what are you doing that for?" "Well, why ain't you doing this?" "Well, I did not know that. Now I know that. I will be trying that. Thank you." You know, a lot of the conversation between me and him went one way. So he was my hero, you know. And his name was Jerry. I'm not going to use his last name, but I think those of you that knows who I'm talking about. And he got killed cutting timber. His family was wonderful. His wife and his kids, everybody was wonderful. I was kind of envious. I mean, he had his life together. Everything was done up right. He raised his kids right. Everything went great with his life. And a damn gum tree killed him. You know. And of course, I know when they come in to do they come in after somebody gets killed or something like that, and they do like this investigation. You know, and we have it in class. You know, there's timber cutting classes you go to and stuff like this when you're in the loop. I guess I'm out of it now, and Big D and Jordan Rogers going to take over my role with the company timber cutting, you know, or the timber cutting classes we go to, game of log and timber cutting training. Those of you that needs the training, go take the training. It helps. But you know, we's all talking about it at the next training event. You know what happened to Jerry, and of course it floored all of us. You know, Jerry bought the timber. He merchandised logs. He hauled off his logs. Him and his dad worked together as a team, and it was wonderful. They was a wonderful team. And Jerry had a lot on his mind. And I know he was sitting there in class that time, and he was talking about where he was standing, what happened, you know, all this stuff. And they're looking at me, and I'm like, kind of like, it wasn't the stupid little things that Jerry knows all about that killed him. His mind was probably on merchandising logs, or, man, I got to get here at this time, and I got to make sure and get my load delivered by this time in the day, you know, or me and Dad's got to get these trees off this side of the road or whatever, you know, and he had 100 things going through his mind, and that's probably what got him. You know, I don't know. I know every time I've been hurt, it's been because there's 100 things going through my mind. Now, I remember when I got ran over by a poplar tree. I mean, that was a weird scenario. It shattered some bones in one foot. The other foot felt worse. I don't know what, it just pulled tendons or what, but the bones wasn't actually broke in my other foot. But I mean, I couldn't walk. I crawled out on my hands and knees how I got out of the woods to get to the hospital there. The last thing on my mind, I remember when the tree hit me, I was like, what the hell? I turned around. And now I'm going for a ride now. You know, I looked down and I couldn't even see my feet no more. The tree was over top my feet, just bulldozing my feet. My feet was scooping dirt, you know, underneath the ground. You know, but most of the times when I got hurt, I was either tired, angry, or distracted. Maybe a little word of advice for young timber cutters out there getting started. If you're angry, distracted, or wore out, you know, either approach with caution, slow yourself down. Don't take it out on that saw and in that wood. Slow yourself down. If you're tired and you're barely keeping one foot in front of the other, it's time caller day. Get on the skidder, trade the skidder man out, let him cut a while or something. But it's time caller day. When you're like that and you're dragging your feet, you know, there ain't nothing to be proven. It ain't a pride thing. There's nothing to be proven to everybody around you. That's what I got into a lot when I was younger, starting out. And then the next day, you'll be able to go a little bit better. Go home, get you some good sleep and stuff, and then you come out of it, the next day you'll be fine. All right. I know many old loggers, about every logger gets thumped up. They tell you in class, you know, it's not if you get it, it's when you get it. I know many old loggers that I've met through the years, and all the old ones, the successful ones, they all got this one thing in common. They meet in the morning in the coffee shop or whatever, the gas station or whatever, where they sit down and they drink their coffee and they shoot the bull with each other. They if they're 10 minutes late, it's all right. If they go to work and they don't move a certain quota, that's all right. You know what I mean? We did good today. You know, they do their best. They got their brains under control. They got their habits, they got their rhythms, and their brain is at that stump. When they're cutting, their brain is right there present, and their mood, everything is held under control to where they're smooth sailor and they're doing their operation smooth. I've heard these old loggers, I've heard them sit around and argue over a 540D turbo against a 240 jack or whatever. I've heard all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it's like you're talking about antique stuff, has nothing to do with today. But I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, that's the mindset. If you want to survive doing this, you either have that mindset or there's the alternative. And that's the route I picked. I cut like a fiend. Ran around like a nut. Barely stayed alive multiple times myself to get my butt. I told Mama it was a means to an end. I wanted to get on that hot saw. I wanted to move enough timber to afford a hot saw. And once I afforded that hot saw, I cut every tree with that thing that I could after that. You know, and that's what I suggest. Now, not all loggers can pull that off. But if you can't pull it off and you're not going for the hot saw, or whatever head, you know, they got all kinds of different heads. But whatever gets you in that cab. If you can't do that, then you need to back off and be a smooth operator. Use an older skidder, don't get fancy. Use an older skidder, cut by the foot, or cut, you know, log by share, whatever you gotta do. But keep your head in the right spot. And that's my advice with Nutsey. Nutsey's a perfectionist. He's more level-headed than I was. Nutsey's cut more timber than I have by far, I think, at this point. And I'm here to tell you from a fact, if I had hand-cut as much timber as what Nutsey had with a saw, I'm sure I would have been dead by now, because my habits weren't good, solid timber cutter habits. Battling your mind is what it takes to get it, you know. And then everybody can talk about this thing or that thing or 12 step, you know, it's diagonal 12 steps from the stump and stuff like, you know, there's all that stuff that's arbitrary. But what I'm saying is, an experienced logger, to me, it's always seemed like it was the three things: tired, distracted, or angry. Because it took you out of when you're in your zone, flow. When you're in a state of flow, you got this gait that you're good at operating in. It's just smooth, but you can take in all the stuff, the dead snags, the grapevines from tree to tree. You can take in all that stuff when you're just in your gate, going smooth in your zone and not tired. But then there's Murphy. You never know when Murphy's going to show up, you know. But that's, those of you that's new out there, that's starting out, that's Logger Wade's advice. Keep your head in the right spot if you're going to do it. But I'm here to tell you, anybody that's thinking about cutting timber, it is the funnest job you'll ever do in your life. So don't do it unless you're prepared for what's going to happen next. Because I'm telling you, it'll get you roped in. I mean, everybody I've ever been around is a timber cutter. They're just like a moth to a daggone bug zapper. Can't help it. But anyways, I hope this helps you guys. And go. There's a GoFundMe for Nutsey. They got that going. And I'll put it down in the links down in the description. And there's other videos on the internet. I'm sure you all have already seen everybody's other videos. I'm the late bloomer on this because I didn't know how I wanted to do it. And I hope this helps somebody. I basically, and on behalf of me, and I'm sure on behalf of Nutsey, you know, as any of the experienced timber cutters, we hope this would help somebody, you know, a younger timber cutter coming out. Nobody is safe from it. It can happen to anybody. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Later on.